up. I was up at 9,000 feet, and we hiked up there, and it was okay. And then we had, you know what a tube tent is? That's what I had for shelter.
Oh my God.
And it started snowing. Well, I was familiar with the place, and I knew there was a cave nearby. So me and my friend packed up in the morning and headed off for that cave and stayed there for 3 days until the snowstorm passed, and then waded our way back down the trail. Anyways, those nights, 2 nights I think I stayed there, was ice. And back then we didn't have thermopads. We just looked for some moss. Well, there's no moss. There was only ice in that cave. And so I remember sleeping on the ice. And that was hard. The only thing I can think of is worse is what those mystics do, maybe in India and some places like that, where they sleep on what? A bed of nails. Have you seen that? Yeah. I'll take the cement or the ice any day. But one other thing I want to say. Tomorrow we're going on a hike, me and Diana and anyone else who wants to come with us. I think, Rick and Regina, you would really like this. It's not a 10-mile or anything like that. I don't know what it is. It's a wander through a grove. Some of the trees.
Old growth grove. One of the few remaining old growth groves.
What's the name of the grove?
E-Mile Grove. It's up Little River.
E-Mile. I looked it up. There are some trees up there that are 9 feet in diameter.
And hundreds of years old.
450 plus. So I'm bringing I don't believe it. I'm bringing my tape measure.
Okay.
You know,
Good for you.
I know pi, go around it and divide it up.
Plus
and
we're
3
going
point
to go
what?
see Grotto Falls, which is
Yes.
a lovely falls. It's a falls you can walk behind.
It's small, but it's lovely, and it's only a quarter-mile walk.
I think it's one of the...
Juanita, you could do that one. It's only a quarter-mile walk up to that fall. Anyways, there's all my announcements. I want to make sure you think about it. Let Diana know. Do you want to meet at 9?
What do you think, 9:30?
It's an hour and a half drive, probably. It's 7 miles of
I
dirt.
don't think it's an hour and a half.
No, it's not an hour and a half.
It's probably maybe an hour.
Well, that last bit is 7 miles of dirt road
Yeah.
to get up. Anyways, we'll do it, and then we'll enjoy it. I'm looking forward to that.
Meet here?
No.
Meet here.
I'll be.
Oh,
I'll be
you're
that way. I don't want. But
Where
we can
do
meet
you
at my house?
Where do you live? Oh,
You
you.
know where I live.
Never mind. Well, there's so many people. No, I've lost half my brain cells. Are you kidding?
Okay.
We'll meet at her house. Look it up in the book.
Or we
She's
just
on.
meet at Abby's on Northeast Diamond Lake. On Diamond Lake. We could meet at the Abby's.
Oh.
Why don't we meet at your place? Because they can park legally there.
All right, but everybody will need the directions.
It's on Douglas.
I'll write it out. They can
Anyways, if you
Google the
if you want to know, contact her and she'll let you know how to get there. Or it's in your book. Everyone has a book. It's on Douglas. It's up, away from
It's
town.
just a mile and a half past the courthouse. Anyway, go ahead, Larry.
And
Sorry.
So,
Whatever, just say
what are we doing this for? Have you ever been around a 450-year-old tree? It is. How many people are doing Reiki? Half of you should raise your hands now.
Oh.
And you can feel the Reiki coming at you when someone's giving it to you, can't you?
I have to announce, evidently Larry hasn't been there yet, but there are redwood trees in California.
Yeah, I've
You
been
drive through.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yes,
It died.
but
Yeah,
that's a hideous infringement on.
And
life.
the biggest, they say the biggest tree in the world is General Sherman, which is up in that area.
I've seen that.
That's
and,
over at
Have you seen that?
Sequoia National Park, which is different than that area.
Yeah.
You know that.
Anyways,
That's in the Sierras. Go ahead, Larry.
there's
So off topic.
there's energy that comes back. The bigger the tree, the more energy comes back. If you're doing Reiki, you put your hands on a tree and you can feel the life of that tree coming
I've
back
done
to
it
you.
many times.
Yeah.
And so this is a big old grove forest, and I think it'll be interesting for us to go, for the Reiki people here especially, to put your hands on it and see if you feel Mother Earth giving you back Reiki. See, it's not something we made up. It's something that's always been here. You're just tapping into it. Now, my talk. There's this boy, Danny. He's 8 years old, and he's at an amusement park with his father. And they're on the Ferris wheel. You know what the Ferris wheel is? You know why it was invented? The people in Chicago were so bent out of shape because in the World's Fair in Paris, they put up the Eiffel Tower for the fair. Okay, that's where it came from. To beat everyone. It was the tallest thing anyone had ever built or something like that. And the people in Chicago said, we can't let them do that. It's our turn to have the World's Fair now, and we're going to put up something even bigger and better. And someone named Mr. Ferris invented the Ferris wheel. Anyways, this boy and his son is up on the Ferris wheel, and they're up so high, they're higher than the Eiffel Tower. That's how high these original big Ferris wheels were. They were huge. You could go up, and you could see everywhere, and you didn't have to climb those stupid stairs that was at the... Anyways, they were having fun. And they reached the top, and the boy is looking down and goes, oh my, look at that, Daddy. I think we must almost be in heaven. Everything is so small down there. And that made the father smile, and he says, well, son, tell me. Puts his arm around him, you know. He says, who is God? Can you tell me that? And does he have a job? What does God do? One of those probing questions that fathers like to poke their sons with, or daughters. And Danny thought for a moment, and he said this. And this is a true story, by the way. So imagine an 8-year-old. So I'm going to try to sound something like an 8-year-old. One of God's many jobs is making people. He makes them to replace the old ones that die, so that there'll be enough people here to take care of things on earth. He doesn't make grown-ups, just babies. I think because babies are smaller and they're easier to make. So they sat in silence, gently swinging back and forth as the car goes down to the earth and comes back up to the top again. And the father's looking up, and he's pointing at a particularly bright star. He says, oh, wow, what is that? He asked Danny. The star is so bright. I don't recall seeing that up there before. So Danny says, oh, that's God's just got a new flashlight, and he's showing it off. Okay. The truth is, the star was a satellite. In this case, it was a man-made star. Glory be. Can you imagine? Now we're even making stars. A theologian said it this way: God left the world unfinished for man to work his skill upon. He left electricity in the clouds and the oil in the earth. He left the rivers unbridged, the cities unbuilt. God gives man the challenge of raw materials, not the ease of finished products. He leaves the pictures unpainted, the music unsung, the problems unsolved, that mankind might know the joys and glory of creation. Now, I have a story to tell you about a block of marble, which is also a true story. It was a pity that such a beautiful block would be wasted. It was immense, the size of 3 men. That's tall, wide. If you can imagine the Jolly Green Giant standing there in marble. And there was a lot of people had been looking at it, and over the years, someone even tried chiseling on it, but gave up. And it was so damaged by that chiseling that no one thought anything could be done with it, and it sat in storage for decades, just sitting there. What you might call a monumental mistake. Well, a young man of 26 came to look at it. He noticed the chisel marks that had left the stone too narrow, too flawed. But he looked deeper, and he saw something within, an image of strength, beauty, waiting to emerge. The young sculptor acquired this marble stone and set to work. And a year and a half later, the artist,
Michelangelo.
Michelangelo, that's interesting. Angel and Michael. So he's named after the Archangel Michael. But anyways, Michelangelo revealed the masterpiece he had carved from that abandoned stone. David, one of the greatest works of art in the history of this world. Now, our body is a temple of God. Like all other things of this world, God has left the finishing touches up to us, his creators here on earth. Like Michelangelo's stone, we too have flaws. Perhaps we have been abandoned. Perhaps we feel too imperfect, stained, or weak to be of any worth. Nevertheless, no matter how broken or marred we may appear to be, there is a masterpiece of breathtaking beauty, depth, and nobility inside each one of us, just waiting to be revealed. The same is true, of course, of those around us. If we look with an eye like Michelangelo's, past the flaws and weaknesses we think we see in others, we will recognize priceless value and infinite potential in each person we meet. Our body is a temple of God. The crown, which is our head, is the Holy of Holies. The rest of the body is the courtyard and middle chamber, where various rituals are performed. There is where you'll find your habits and beliefs, the stormy weather as far as of your life, and also your joys. The rituals have a purpose to release and heal those parts of this body temple which no longer serve our highest good. Things which darken some of the anterooms or remote hallways of this temple, which is you. This is the work of creation I spoke of, the work of revealing the hidden masterpiece within. Michelangelo's masterpiece was called David. What is your masterpiece called? It is called the Christ. When we look at an acorn, we see more than an acorn. We know its potential to become a mighty oak tree and to start producing acorns itself. It doesn't bother us that this process can take decades or that growth is slow, almost imperceptible. We know that an acorn is not meant to remain an acorn. Which version of you is the perfect you? God's vision of what you may become, or the finished art piece? The acorn or the full-grown tree? Sandy Greenberg wrote, "There is something special about us blind people, and this I have come to realize is an unqualified asset. We do not sense horizons. For us, they do not exist." Can you imagine that? It is a subtle thing, but not insignificant. Yes, I know about walls. I know they exist because I physically encounter them, and except for those echoes that I hear as I am very close to a wall, I do not mentally establish an environment hemmed in by walls. Now, I'll just add something here. He goes on, it's a whole book about his life, how he became blind. He wasn't always blind. He said, with no horizon, there's nothing to limit his imagination. There's nothing to limit his ideas. And he found that out after he became blind. Schopenhauer wrote, "Every man takes the hint of his own field of vision for the limits of his world." You'll like this one, Rick. The chick lives in the yolk beneath the eggshell, considering the space within the shell as all the space there is. But when it breaks out of the shell, it comes into a larger world. In the same way, you are a human chick living on the yolk, which is this planet, and surrounded by the star-studded shell of the blue sky. You think that this world, with this confining shell, is the biggest place there is. But suppose for a moment that you had an endless mind. And with that mind, you could pierce the shell of the sky and look beyond the myriads of solar and stellar systems into the other realms, beyond time and space. So join with me and step out of the flesh walls of your small body and feel the vastness of space all around you. You expand your consciousness outward. Infinite space becomes your new body, a cosmic body. The Milky Way is your brain, the sun and moon your eyes, the sky your skin, the mountains your bones. And you are still expanding outward into a world without end, so that now you perceive the love of all creatures, all creations, all worlds, as your heart. And with this endless mind of yours, you see this love as it circulates through your ever-expanding body as cosmic blood, with star rivers energizing every corner of creation. For those who aren't familiar, that is a very, very prominent Taoist meditation. And this particular quote came from Yogananda, so evidently it's also from that part of the world. And I participated in it. Which version of you is the perfect you? God's vision of what you may become, or the finished art piece? The human or the cosmic body? Most people think of perfection as a finished, idealized product. The truth is that in a constantly changing universe, no such thing exists. You are not a finished product, nor will you ever be. Nothing is static. Change is the only constant. Yet, in my eyes, you are all perfect. Perfection to me doesn't necessarily mean that someone is beautiful or smart. You don't even have to be happy. Perfection means that people are authentically who they are in this moment of time. In Matthew 5, Jesus said, "Be therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect." Everyone knows that one. I'm guessing that most people read that statement as Jesus exhorting us to become perfect. I don't believe that's the case. I believe that he was saying that we are never without perfection. I believe he was declaring our inherent perfection as an extension of God's perfection. And where do we find that perfection? In the Christ. Perhaps the idea of sin, the assumption of our imperfection, is one of those foundation blocks that needs to be re-examined. We are an art piece. We are the hand of God painting this part of the world. We are like the weather, not always sunny, because every kind of weather is needed for this earth to be healthy and in balance. So tell me, how would your life be different if you knew you were perfect? I'll tell you what I feel. I am never worried I'm never worried that something might be wrong with me for being human and making mistakes. I'll say that again. I am never worried that something might be wrong with me for being human and making mistakes. In this state, I can relax and just enjoy being me. Think for a moment how your life would change if you would just stop judging yourself. Perfection is a process, one that is unfolding perfectly for everyone at every moment. I'm hoping that Zan was here because this is right up her alley and within her focus as a spiritual path. But I'd like to have a short chemistry lesson here. Okay, electrons of an atom. This is what we're going to talk about. They orbit the nucleus, okay? They go around and around, and they have layers. And each layer can only hold so many electrons. The first layer can hold a maximum of 2. When you get a third electron, boom, pops into the next layer. Okay? The second layer can hold 8, no more, and so forth. In your mind, place a penny on the table. And using this penny as the center, how many pennies can you place around the first one and have all the pennies touching? Anyone? Cheat sheet.
Oh, good.
This would have been obvious if you just seen this. Everyone's seen this.
Okay.
There's 6. You can't get more. You can't get less because there'd be a gap. So there's 6. But now, when we're talking about atoms, it's a little different. There are 7 electron layer is possible. With an electron layer, when an electron layer is filled to capacity, the next one begins to fill. Now, as I read this, the first thing that popped out to me was our 7 layers of consciousness, and how our 7 layers might be related to the ones surrounding an atom. I found that interesting. It's almost like there's these little patterns that show up in nature all over the place, and here's one of those patterns. 7 layers of electrons, 7 layers of consciousness. And there are many names for these. One of them is chakras, but they also include the 7 bodies, and each body that's attached to a chakra is a little bit bigger. Now, if you could see one of these, see a person's chakras, lights, you would see almost like a rainbow surrounding this person. And it goes out and out. And the last one is an infinite, because there's no boundary to the last body. So, people call them dimensions or densities. We're all talking about the same thing. All these terms mean the same thing. They also call them consciousness. Consciousness is another way of expressing these layers. Now, layers. It reminds me of a quote from Yogananda. In meditation, first, the life force must be withdrawn from the body and must cross the portals of cosmic energy represented by the golden ring. Then it must plunge into the blue light representing Christ's consciousness. Then it must penetrate through the silver star representing spirit in the region of the infinite. Humans are not the only ones with these layers. Like the atom, all of creation has these layers of consciousness. They lay dormant and invisible until you become consciously aware of them. Let's talk about the Earth, our home planet. It too has layers of consciousness, or bodies. When we become aware of these layers, we will see this Earth as a glorious realm of light and love. And beyond that, it is the absolute, using Charles Fillmore's term. A poem. Earth's shadow upon the sun tells of a light we know not of, shining brilliantly in the dead of night. What a glorious sight. Now, interesting words. How on earth are we going to have a shadow cast upon the sun? The light behind Earth must have been something, but not of this world. What about our own invisible light? Our glory is not diminished in any way because we are here expressing as humanity, a mere speck in the vastness of God's creations. Why? Because we are multi-dimensional beings of infinite power and creativity. Our whole self cannot be contained, be it in a planet or a body of clay, or even an entire universe. Let's return to our conversation about the atom. I hope you can get this. I found it fascinating. So the nucleus is surrounded by electrons, and that makes it a positive charged nucleus is surrounded by negatively charged electrons. Okay, so every atom is a negatively charged on the outside, and negative charges don't like to intercede, they don't go together, they bounce off each other, and so that's why atoms stay separate. But in the practical world, this is actually not the case. Atoms often merge to become molecules. So why? Why do they break this law of attraction and repulsion and become molecules? Well, you know, water is H2O. Everyone knows that. That means the hydrogen atom. 2 hydrogen atoms bond with 1 oxygen atom. The reason for this is the second layer of electrons in oxygen only has 6 electrons. It wants 2 more. It's unbalanced. It's dying to have 2 more electrons. So here comes hydrogen, and it attaches itself to the oxygen, 2 of them. So it gives their electron to the energy field of the oxygen. And I found that interesting, and we can learn a lesson from this. This is magnetism, really. Hydrogen and oxygen are attracted to each other, seeking balance. You'll see this happening everywhere. Magnetism is the basis for creation. So for the sake of this example, let's say that these atoms are self-aware beings possessing intelligence. Some people say they are, in their level. The way atomic beings cooperate to create more expansive molecular beings tells us an enormous amount about the foundation of our universe and our lives. Life is all about experience. Like an atom, we are able to become increasingly complex beings capable of ever more extraordinary experiences. Why? How? By combining with others. We were meant to be a community. Like hydrogen and oxygen, we were meant to live together, work together, do things together. And in this way, we become much more complex and have much more interesting experiences. A foundational structure of our universe is one of cooperation and connection. Relationship is hardwired into our existence. I was standing in a circle of 200 people on the slopes of Mount Shasta many years ago. We were calling down the healing light from the center of the galaxy. The center, this energy was so strong that I could see some people shaking violently on the other side of this very large circle. I was also shaking. And I'll just add to this, we were just one. We were the core, the main group, but there were circles all over the world doing this simultaneously with us. So there were thousands of people all praying at the same time. One of those mystical experiences, it was really, really interesting. And then I always thought Mount Shasta, oh, phooey on that. Not anymore. That place is amazingly energy charged. You would not believe it. You just have to walk up on the mountain. Anyways, during this time, during this circle, a vision opened up to me and I saw everyone's chakras. It's a gift that I picked up along the way somewhere. And usually I just see their chakras. But this time I saw the chakras not as individuals out there, but I saw like a ribbon. Everyone's chakras were blended together into a ribbon, like a circular rainbow going around the circle. It was amazing to see, looking out there and just seeing the colors just going straight across from person to person without any break. That's community. So, while you are loving God, as Jesus taught, don't forget to love your neighbor. And in so doing, you are loving yourself. We as a community are in this journey together. The earthship, ours, and all of humanity are rising into a new birth. Stop holding your breath and just let it happen. I've got a song for you. And after that,